It's still cold.
It's getting better.
Because this is the spot I'm realizing. I'm immediately overheating.
Now you're hot. I'm
So if you want
comfortable.
to swap, we can just do like magical chairs.
Yeah, that'd be great. You want to do that?
I honestly went from very. Yeah, it's pretty.
Over to the side version. Yes. Come to the warm side.
Thank you. Oh, yes, this is lovely.
It's a different game.
Okay, Keith has joined us. Play some musical chairs and then we'll get started. Okay, well, I will call to order this second monthly meeting of the Village of Trumansburg Board of Trustees. Trustee Darfler is excused. Trustee Hannon is joining us remotely. Are there any changes to the agenda? I do have a couple of additions under new business for police department items for potential purchase. Are there any other?
I have another EMS also item for potential purchase.
More EMS spending, okay. Keith, anything else to add? Marcia, anything?
No, nothing.
All right, item number 3 then is we will have another one, our first public comment period. If anyone from the public would like to comment anything, sure. Excuse me.
I've missed a few meetings. I feel a little left out, but I did want to weigh in on lot size a little bit. If you're even like just walking on our neighborhood on Seneca Street, it's just sort of like 2 blocks. But if we considered a reduction in lot size that went from 100 to, let's say, 67, 2/3, let's say, that would allow for not only 2 lots on our property alone. But if you go up Seneca Street, there's a bunch of properties. Their fronts on McClellan and their rear yards on Seneca. And it would allow, I think, even like 3 more lots on that street. And it's still a big change. It's 2/3 the size. And if you went from 15,000 square feet to 10,000, it allows for 50% more development on the undeveloped lots, like on Seneca Road, that big chunk of property. You could get 50% more properties in a new development. And I feel like it's a size where it's still much smaller than most of the lots in the village, right? 67. Okay. He usually knows that, but I just feel like it's something that's a big change. It would allow for a lot of development, but it's still more in keeping with the character of the village. And I just wanted to put that out to maybe as a compromise figure where everyone sort of is getting a little bit of what they want. I think that's all I have.
Anthony Hansen. I couldn't quite come up with that number for Rose on how many were over 67, but I think it's 85%. But I was going to thank Ben, AMSID chair, for the CPZRC committee taking their time to have a public information session. As Ben said, it's different from the public hearing because there's a lot for feedback, and I think it was really useful. Allowed some things to get aired and I think some things to get clarified for the public. So that was great. And maybe we could consider, the board would consider having a public information session sometimes prior to setting the public hearing to allow for that same kind of back and forth. That's it.
Yes. Anyone from the public online? Unless there's anything else you want to add at the moment? Okay. Then we will move right along to old business. We do have the updated draft zoning revision, updated since this board's conversations of the last 2 months, I guess, a month and a half. We are slated next, barring any change of decision from this board, to formally introduce the updated draft zoning revision, which we can simply say is being introduced as it is in the public record. We would also need to resubmit it to the county for a section 239 review, since there have been substantial changes since the last draft they reviewed. And then we would need to set a public hearing date to formally move forward with any consideration of potential adoption. So I would suggest that we consider the draft, the updated draft, as being introduced this evening. So we need to make a note of that date. Jen, if you would make a note that we're going to need to send it to Tompkins County Planning for their comment. And then unless there's a conflict with anyone's schedules, I would suggest we schedule the public hearing for our second meeting in October, which will be Monday, the 23rd. Unless anyone's not going to be available. I know Ben is available. Keith, you're available Monday, the 23rd of October.
I won't be here.
Won't be not here at all, or you'll be in remotely, or
It is Hannah's birthday, so I will be utterly
definitely not here at all. Okay.
I appear to be available.
Hmm.
I mean, I think for what it's worth, I've said my piece. I don't see. I'm not offended by the idea of it being discussed or voted on. I'm not here.
Marcia, are you available?
I'm available. Could we do, I mean, if you would like him to participate, could we do what we do on a holiday and just move it to a Tuesday?
We could, I just need to make sure that Ben is available. Keith, are you available Tuesday, the 24th? At least as of this moment.
Yes, yeah, nothing, I mean, the only thing I would offer is my schedule is a little less concrete than it used to be. Just because of the nature of my new position. But I don't, right now it's totally clear, so I don't imagine it would change.
Okay, let me see if Ben is indisposed or able to respond. Okay. Let's circle back then to a public hearing date. Hopefully Ben can respond. But we can get that off for 239 review. Jen, either way. Next item of old business is we have received or had received previously announced a relatively small but important amount of grant money from DEC in the amount of $30,000 for engineering to be done on the retaining wall in Trumansburg Creek opposite the post office at the bottom of Gregg Street. As with all grants, there are I's to dot and T's to cross, but the most important thing is it is an engineering report grant, so we need an engineering company to do it. So we have asked our engineering firm in MRB to supply us with a quote or a proposal for those services, which they have provided. It is in the Dropbox. This is a matching grant, a 10% matching grant, so we would need to come up with $3,000 in either dollar money or in-kind services. The quote from MRB is for a total of $24,900. And hopefully everyone's had a chance to look at it. Scope of services is included. At the end of this, they will generate a report that tells us what's going to need to be done and how much it'll cost.
With lots of zeros at the end, I'm
There'll be
sure.
more zeros than the report itself. Yes.
Yes.
Any questions or thoughts or comments?
Well, I think it's straightforward.
Yep.
Okay, then I would entertain a motion to authorize me to sign the proposal or accept the proposal and sign any necessary contracts with MRB to do the stream bank stabilization engineering report.
So,
Second,
Motion and a second. Any other questions or comments?
just the. I could do a friendly amendment to my own motion, but just that we would commit the $3,000 if we need to do that. You know, that has to be in the motion.
oh, yeah,
Doesn't need to be in the motion. It was a term of the grant, which we applied for. So when we applied for
Oh,
it,
but you accepted it that. Okay, never mind then.
any other comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
aye.
I,
Any opposed? Okay. Last or third item, I don't know if it's the last, third item of old business is back in August, we introduced a more or less boilerplate, but attorney reviewed draft local law with respect to code enforcement. Something that actually New York State began to require last year. And we have just now gotten around to it. It updates and codifies what the code enforcement officer is responsible for. So we've introduced that a month and a half ago now, so I'd like to set the public hearing date. I don't imagine there will be a lot of public comment, but we never know. As most of it is required by New York State, it will be what it will be, but we need to have the public hearing anyway. And so I would suggest, if no one objects, that we do it at our first meeting in October. If everyone will be here, we have rescheduled that meeting for Tuesday, the 10th already. As the 9th is a government holiday. You're gonna be here the 10th, as far as you know?
Yes.
I hope so. It is my son's birthday.
Okay.
So we're really. We bring out all the songs, but he's turning 2, so I think so. Maybe I'll bring.
We should definitely bring him. Get him
it's also
started.
my son's birthday.
Is it really?
And he's not turning 2.
He will probably notice.
You think you'll make it?
Yeah, we're doing the party the weekend before, so I think it's probably okay. I think. I don't know.
Find out.
I've
All right.
kinda-
Jen, let's set the public hearing date with appropriate notifications, which actually we don't have a ton of time for that. Public hearing date on the code enforcement local law for Tuesday, October the 10th at 7 p.m. Okay. Still have not heard back from them. Any other items of old business? All right. Moving right along to new business. We have a couple of, excuse me, a couple of items from a couple of our departments. Starting with EMS.
So the first one I'll talk about quickly is the RFP. This is not something that actually needs board any action from us, but just wanted an FYI because we've been, or I've been bringing it up frequently. But Joel has prepared an RFP to go out to hopefully reevaluate, I shouldn't say hopefully, but to reevaluate who our billing company. We have been using MedX for many years. They have in some ways been great, and in some ways, you know, there's things that we think you can improve. So the idea is whether we stick with MedX or not, we have not taken this contract out to bid in any way, in any meaningful way for a very long time. So this, I included it in the Dropbox, just if you want to read it and take a look. I think it's fairly straightforward. I think anything Joel may have put a little bit too much detail in there. It's fairly long. It's 20 pages. But there's also a lot of detail that goes along with medical billing. So that's pretty fair. But really just a notification, wanted to mention it publicly. I want to all be aware that I hope, depending on how quickly we release this, if responses come back in, you know, in the quantity and quality that we expect, hopefully at one of our October meetings, assuming I can be there, we will have responses, but if not, you know, in the coming months. So that's really more of an FYI than anything else. The other piece that's on the agenda is a smart board. So board training for the EMS, our EMS department has been working towards a more holistic, maybe a comprehensive, maybe is the word, training program. Traditionally, we have done some in-house training for our staff. The hope is to broaden that program so that we can include community training, more community outreach. Part of that is always drawing things, always showing pictures, showing videos. And so Joel would like to get a smart board that allows you essentially, you know, to function as a TV, but you can also write on it and you can have a whiteboard function and that kind of thing. I think it's a phenomenally good idea. It is more than I can approve myself. And we would like to spend it out of the EMS donation reserve. So if we do that, it requires a referendum. So I want to bring it to the board first to see if there's any comments, any thoughts on doing that. And then depending on those comments, I will have this referendum.
How much is in that? How much is in that donation reserve?
I don't know exactly, but it's not a huge amount. It's like 68,000 or something.
But enough to call for purchase.
Yes.
I have no objections. I think it's a really great idea. They're very handy.
Keith, any thoughts?
Sorry, trying to find the mute button. No.
That's fine.
Great. Well, in that case, I would move that we spend up to $2,900, rather than we authorize able to spend up to $2,900 from the EMS donation reserve, subject to this referendum.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second,
Friendly amendment that we are authorizing him to spend up to $2,900 for the purchase of the smart board.
I accept.
mhm.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
I,
Any opposed? Okay, anything else for EMS?
Yeah, so the other piece I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting is the other spend is for cameras for the vehicles. So we don't have a lot of instances, but there are occasional cases where, you know, I think the primary concern and goal is in addressing this on the vehicular instance. So if the ambulance is involved in an accident or anything sort of between actually an accident, but there's warning signs of an accident that they fires are need to correct back driving, anything like that. The hope is that we can monitor those things. There's also obviously the options that broader or greater liability issues that happen, just being fair. In all cases, having cameras similar to a police body camera is the type of thing that allows us to training platforms, cases, incidents, and prevents, I think we see it much the same in police as a way to protect ourselves.
Mhm.
Not preferred, certainly something that is very useful to look at like in both ambulances and the platform. Here again, I'm very much in favor, in this case, including interactive through the spend of the equipment, but it felt like something that was worth bringing to the board, and there's an name, so part of the review from this company is it's basically AI generated automatic trigger. So if you have a full stop, so that maybe those guys from 60 to 0 immediately, now the trigger an event will send a notification to you. So it's potentially very handy. So I would like to do that step. While we're here, I think we might as well just add board approval. And then I would also like to offer a word it's contract, so it's service agreement for $1,080.
Is that for a year or a?
So that's when you get.
Who's the contract with?
So there's GPS. It is, I don't know the exact relationship with it, it's one that it's affiliate or sister company that the company that the banks uses. And the reason that it's different is the enterprise level. So the company that banks uses has to have a minimum 25 or more. This is sort of the same company, but under a different, same umbrella, different company for smaller enterprises. So since we only have 3 vehicles.
So they retain and maintain and keep all the video, is that what they do?
So they provide primarily, yes.
Okay.
They also screen it. So there are automatic alerts that you can set based on your internal policies, and they can be, it can notify you if a provider doesn't wear their seatbelt, or if someone's eating while driving or something. There's a lot of different policies that you can incorporate that it will send automatic notifications for.
Gotcha.
Also the one I mentioned before, driving behavior. So if there's anything, I think a lot of
Mhm.
these companies now will track your property and do some of that. Similar technology,
Mhm.
flag this automatic instead of just starting notify you to correct the action, but that's the service.
And do the cameras cover the entire ambulance?
So the system that Joel has that we like to use is front, rear, and then in the cab and in the patient care area. So,
Okay, so it
not-
would,
that's duty.
it would videotape patient care if there, was an issue or something like that.
And
Okay.
So the first red flag means anytime you're in patient care, that concerns are.
Right,
paramount,
right.
obviously, and you're not even just concerned about
Privacy, right,
more generally.
yeah,
And so that really is one of the big benefits of the AI screening process and working with the person. So that is very much paramount for them as well. And there is no, generally speaking, unless it's in the incidents of flag, there's no one watching.
Right.
No one's seeing things. They will not see them unless flag there's no. And again, most importantly to me, at least, is that I think that's accustomed to the regulation and privacy concerns, so this is sort of their bread and butter, so I'm not worried in the same way that I would be. One of the options that Joel looked at the initial is basically trying to map out their scope of work and the services they offer and doing it ourselves, and sort of bootstrapping it together, and that makes me a little bit concerned. Even if it is an internal review and you call it interaction, this first of all, but also.
yeah, I'm all with the leave it to the professionals that know what, yeah.
But so that all feels agreeable. Then I think I will just move them both separately unless we have. maybe a little bit personal. So I will move that we approve up to $1,900 out of the contractual line to equip the ambulances and fly car with cameras.
A motion, do we have a second?
Second,
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, then all in favor, please say aye.
I,
Any opposed? Okay, and the next one?
So I would move that we authorize Rorden to sign the contract with GPS Tab to provide telematics solutions for our ambulance department at a cost of up to $1,100 a.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
second,
Any questions, comments?
Oh, and see that again.
Okay, if there's no other comments or questions, all in favor, please say aye.
I,
Any opposed? Okay.
Oh, there it is.
Keith, we've got some spending to do in police.
yes, it's, we have one additional equipment purchase. I believe we have 3 different invoices in the Dropbox. The one we would like to proceed with is from the company Bright. And it is, this is to put in the necessary wireless communications within the police car so that it can basically communicate via internet with county dispatch. And this is the company that we're going with was the cheapest of the 3, and it's $1,885. And we just want to make sure I got the we want to do this from the contractual or equipment line. So I would make a motion that we spend $1,885 for the Sierra Wireless Network modem / router for the new patrol vehicle from the equipment line.
Motion and a second. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
aye,
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
And then the second is we had some residents approach Joe, and they noticed Officer Dan riding around on his bike, and they liked that. And I think Joe kind of explained that, yeah, we'd like to do more. Part of the limitations, though, is, we can only have our officers so far away from their patrol vehicle. Should there ever be an emergency or a call, they need to be able to get back there. So the range and time in which we can be on bikes is, can be limited. So there were some residents, upon hearing that offered to make a donation unsolicited to help with the purchase of an electric bike for the police department. And so there is $1,500 worth of donations being sent to the police department. And Joe was able to work with Cornell Police to get the price they get for their electric bikes at a discount. And so after the donations, the cost to us would be $2,385. And so we'd like to approve those funds to make that purchase. And that includes, that's kind of the total cost of fitting the bike. And, putting everything on it that it needs.
Did Joe mention which line he wants to take that from?
I thought I had that and now I'm suddenly not seeing it. Let me double check my other notes.
Well, I'll just take this moment to say, yeah. I'm so excited. That was my first time when it started seeing it regularly. It would be fantastic to be able to cover. I mean, on e-bike, they'll be able to cover basically the whole village fairly easily. And I think it puts in the community in a way that's going to be engaging. And I'm just very excited. And I think I probably ought to. Yeah, but I think it's very exciting. I think we should all be very excited.
Yeah, Joe mentioned it to me and I thought it was. I don't know that the police department specifically has ever received donations, so that's.
Right.
Of course,
Yeah.
and of course we can't, and of course the, a municipality can't solicit donations, so it's an interesting confluence of events, but I know it'll be well received. I'm sure Dan will enjoy it. Did you find which line that's coming from?
No, I'm not seeing where we documented where exactly it's going to come from.
Well, let's just approve it out of the regular equipment line.
Okay, that's what I was going to say.
All right, do you want to move that with a dollar amount?
Yes, so I would move that we spend $2,385 out of the equipment line for the purchase of an electric bike pending the donations. Joe made it clear we would not make the purchase until the donations came in first, which he was expecting, I think, early this week.
Thank you to the people who donated. That's wonderful.
So we should probably make that motion to spend up to $4,000 out of the equipment line, since we are purchasing something for that dollar amount.
Okay.
And then we will just have to because the donations end up in the general fund, so we'll have to make a note to do some budget modifications later in the year to increase that equipment line by the donated amount.
Okay.
But we have to authorize the full purchase, so that's a friendly amendment if you'll accept that, Keith.
Yes, accepted.
Any other comments? Hearing none, then all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Let's get the department in e-bike. Anything else for police?
Nothing that needs to be passed. I'll save kind of some newsworthy updates for our bigger meeting in October.
Okay.
Oh, no, one thing I will add is we were happy. State DOT was working on Main Street. Some may have noticed. I think they did some nice things, including painting the fire hydrant zones. But Joe, while they were working, Joe had a talk with them and kind of discuss some of the traffic safety stuff we had kind of put on the table for several years. And so one thing they did do for us while they were up here was put reflective tape on the poles of all the crosswalk signs. I'm not sure if anyone noticed that, but so at least at night, those signs will light up a lot more than they used to at all the crosswalks on Main Street. So That's a good thing, I believe. And that's it.
All right. Any other items of new business? Okay, I did hear back from Ben and he is available on Tuesday, the 24th. So I would suggest that we move and notice our second October meeting. That'll be for Jen and Jessica. That we move and notice our second October meeting from the 23rd to the 24th. And that we making sure I'm not double booking myself here. And that we schedule the public hearing for the updated draft zoning revision for that evening. So everyone is available, so we'll plan on doing that then. Okay. So we need to get the meeting schedule change notice, and then separately we'll notice the public hearing. Okay. Any other items of old business or new business? Okay, second public comment period. If anyone would like to online, if anyone would like to comment on anything publicly. Rose,
I'm all set, thanks.
Jules,
Yeah, I have only 8 items.
8.
Yeah,
We're gonna need a microphone for you then.
I can't hear any of you at all because of the echoes in the hall, but I can do. Yeah, this is, I'll make this really quick. I really do have 8 items, but
You have 15 minutes.
no, I have 5 minutes.
The microphone is for all our friends online, Jules, not for us so much.
Okay, so other people will hear what I'm going to
Right.
say. How far does that go? Does that go to Washington DC to the House of Representatives? I'd like to.
Whoever wants to watch.
The first are new families in the village. There are a lot of new, younger people coming into the village. And we've only met 3 or 4 of those families. They're really wonderful. What I'm learning and seeing is that they feel that this is a wonderful village and has a very high level of friendship. So what I'm thinking about is our ways to increase the high level of friendship that we have. I don't have answers to that, but it's just a suggestion. I'm just sort of putting it out there. Waving at people, saying hello, and offering to help people and so on. That's 1. 2 is vehicles coming down the grade in front of the fire station. It's a downgrade and trucks and cars roll. So Patty and I will sit in the post office parking lot for maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And we just look at the cars coming down the grade and going into the center of the village. I would say at least half of them are above the speed limit, maybe more. Some are doing 40, I think, or 45, and I think it's a 30-mile zone coming down. So a suggestion would be to ask the Trumansburg Police Department to go into the parking lot where you pull into the post office and maybe turn a car around and just do radar, not to chase people or not to arrest people, but just to clock people to see what kind of a problem that is. So if you get 50% of the vehicles coming down past the fire station are doing 35 or 40, sure, and they slow down when they get to the middle of the village where the crosswalks are. What we're seeing is people aren't slowing down when they get to the center of the village. They're still going 40 and 45 at the crosswalks, and that's not safe. Item 3. And I've talked to the mayor about this. Who's a really nice guy. His name is Rorden Hart. He's really wonderful, but I talked to him about this. When people are speeding on Halsey Street, and the variations of the speeds are, some are going 35, some 25. The 25 miles the speed, but more. Some of people are doing 40, 45, 50. Easy, I think, Marcia? Yeah, easy. Yeah, 45, 50, particularly going west. It's a major drive. That road, Halsey, is a major drive for people coming into school in the morning and leaving in the afternoon with the school buses. It's also, I think, a major drive for people shortcutting off of 96 and then coming down through around Podunk and then coming into South Street, jumping on Pennsylvania Avenue, coming to the corner of Halsey and Pennsylvania, and then going straight out the Searsburg Road. It's a shortcut for people coming from Ithaca who are working. Some people run the Curry Road, but anyway, they come through the village. So I don't know if it's possible to issue, let's say a person is speeding and I'm a police officer and I'm there and I'm going to just flag them down when they see the nice marker that's up there now on the telephone pole telling people what their speed is. It's there, and it's really good to have that because it does slow people down. But I think the village ought to be able to, and I know where we are with it, okay, but I'm just going to raise it. And I know you're going to say, I'm not going to do that. But I think the village should be able to issue not tickets, not formal New York State speeding tickets, but little pieces of paper saying, at this time on this street, your speed was, and then we're just asking you to slow down. It can be very nice. It doesn't have to be aggressive, but I think we should try to do that. Ooh, how am I doing? I got 8 minutes? Issue to slow down. Okay, here, so there's new people are going to come in to serve in the village. And you all are doing a wonderful, really wonderful job as trustees, and also yourself, Jen. I wonder if it's a good idea to have, if people are interested, and you can put a little thing out there in the paper or other places. If people are interested in becoming a trustee, it might be interesting to ask them if they would be willing to shadow a trustee for like a day. So you're interested in becoming a trustee in the village? Well, all right, we're going to ask you to shadow a trustee for a day or two, or, just to get a feeling for what that's like. Okay, this is not going to work at all. The next one, which is number 5, and I'll stop here shortly. So I don't know if it's possible to, I think it's impossible for the village to say to the village, for the village board to say to the village, we're recommending a minimum wage for people who work in the village. So that's not going to work. But I stopped in the other day at Burn Dairy, and I was talking to a very nice woman. And she said to me, yes, I am married, and yes, I do have a husband, and yes, I do have 2 small children. And I said, what is your income? What's your, hourly income? She said, $15 for an 8 to 10 hour shift. And I said, okay. And your husband, well, he works here too at Burn, and his $17. So if you take $15 and 17 hours, and they have 2 really small children, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, we're dealing with people who are really having a hard time financially. And she said that to me. She said, I'll tell you, Jules, we're having a hard time financially. And I don't know, I don't think it's possible to turn around and say to businesses in the village, could we raise the minimum wage to, let's say, $20 or $25? I know the national discussion about it is not, I think, not total nonsense. What's going on? They're talking about 13 or 14 or $18. It's so ridiculous to talk about that, but I don't know if it's possible. So what we do with our family at 3 Halsey Street, and we do this because we can do it. We can afford it, but we pay everybody who comes into the front door or back door to work at our home $40 an hour, whatever they're doing. They're cleaning the house, if they're doing work in the driveway, and because I ask people, what do you use the hourly wage? Well, I'll take 30. I said, no, it's 40 in this yard. And which is a nice thing to do. The last thing is breakfast food for the paramedics. What Patty and I did during the COVID is we treated the paramedics at the Trumansburg Fire Department with breakfast. And we would pick up a breakfast at Ithaca Bakery and drop it off. And we get enough food so it would last for probably 3 days. We've asked what they would like for breakfast. And it cost us to get a nice breakfast together for the paramedic EMTs at Trumansburg and drop it off between probably $80 and $150. What I'd like to do, and I'm just putting this out there not to do anything with it here in the village now, but we're going to start again in October, Patty and I. We talked about it at breakfast yesterday morning. Starting in October, we're going back to COVID breakfast for paramedic EMTs. It'd be nice to have a small group of people in the village, let's say 4 or 5 people, who would form a little paramedic EMT breakfast group. And we would talk about what we were going to do to get paramedic breakfast, EMT breakfasts together. Okay, the last item I can't talk about because it's too embarrassing. That's the one. The giant, the giant up here. Yeah. Well, it's the thing about the giant. I can't talk about it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jules.
That was 15 minutes, 14.
Yeah, no, you were good.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Okay, I would then entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss a couple of personnel matters. Do I have a second?
Yes, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.